Welcome to Classes of Mail. Before you listen, you should know that Alan Gigax is not in any sense an official spokesman for the Post Office, the NALC, or anybody else. His opinions are inherently his own and should probably be disregarded. Same for his guests. Any information you hear on this podcast could be wrong and should not be relied upon for any reason. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Classes of Mail. My name is Alan Gigax, and I am here once again with Michael Brazenly.
Hi everyone.
And we are going to do part two of the OIG report, because in true Classes of Mail style, we're reading this fucker. We are going to read it and
we're doing a marathon.
Understand it. Yeah. We're going into our third hour of recording. We've already got over 2 hours of podcasting today. Dude, I feel like Corey Walton today or Ron Speakman with this marathon recording session.
Yeah, but we're doing parts, so it's easier to listen to.
Right. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, it's a courtesy to the listeners to break it up into parts. All right. So last time the OIG essentially laid out what all the problems are, and there are more problems to come, but now we finally get to the OIG's recommendation.
OIG basically said management is the problem. Management's answer is, let's hire more managers.
Right. Dude, that's the single craziest part of the whole report was when they blamed short staffing of supervisors. Oh my God. But we saw the real problem was supervisors not being trained and how like 90% of them didn't take the trainings about how not to have a bunch of grievances. It's crazy, but not surprising. All right, here we go. The first recommendation.
But again, it comes from the top.
Absolutely. Well, we're fixing to talk about that.
Let's go.
Recommendation number 1. We recommend the Vice President, Labor Relations, provide remedial or refresher training to management handling grievances in areas of concern to include topics such as, but not limited to, knowledge of national bargaining and local agreements, grievance arbitration procedures, responding to union requests for information, and contending with challenges from union representatives. So there's their first recommendation. Now we go on to recommendation number 2. And Michael just looked it up. The Vice President of Labor Relations is a guy named Michael Elston. Now that I hear it, that name does sound familiar to me. Okay. Recommendation number 2. We recommend the Vice President, Labor Relations, Michael Elston, develop a platform to share best practices identified by individual districts on grievance management and require each district to provide a plan to implement applicable best practices. Seems very reasonable. In fact, this is something within the union that I've been pushing for a long time. And when the CLC takes over, this is something because I will finally have the ears of people who can do these sorts of things. This is something I'm really going to push, is that we need to establish and distribute best practices. It's something I really push for in the Carrier Academy, where you talk to enough teachers and you find out what works and what doesn't. And so when we find stuff that works, we should really be embracing that and making sure that everybody's doing that. Okay. Recommendation number 3. We recommend the Chief Retail and Delivery Officer and Executive Vice President and Chief Processing and Distribution Officer and Executive Vice President, don't worry about looking those people up, require the use of the overtime administration tool at facilities with high or recurring overtime grievances unless restricted by local agreements. All right, so this, we talked about it in the last episode. That is a computer program that essentially helps management equally distribute overtime. And it's not a perfect tool, but it's apparently a lot better at it than management is. And so everything helps, and management's just not using it.
If I remember correctly, management has to input in all the carriers who signed up for overtime.
Yeah.
In that overtime
in OT admin, yeah.
Okay. And then it will tell them who's available for the overtime.
Right, because it knows who's scheduled each day. Yeah.
Yeah. And the problem is sometimes they forget to add somebody or whatever. And that's where the grievances usually come from, is when they forget to add somebody.
Yeah. And we learned in part 1, many supervisors aren't even using it at all. Yeah, because they'd rather do it by hand or whatever way they're doing it that isn't working. All right, recommendation number 4. We recommend, I'm going to skip all these titles. Who cares? We recommend management require and reiterate training for supervisors on proper administration of overtime, including but not limited to overtime desired lists, equitable distribution of overtime, and craft jurisdiction rules.
But they all complain they don't have time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, more training. Well, and dude, this is something that as a steward, I stress, is I'll say like, if management wants to hold the carrier accountable to a rule, okay, when's the last time you gave the carrier time to review the M41?
So here's where I see some problems, okay?
Okay.
The post office, when we get a supervisor, station manager, whoever gets removed from managing any carriers.
Right.
And so upper management has no idea what they're going to place them. So what they do?
What's that?
They become manager trainers.
Right.
So you got these managers who are abusive to carriers and so forth, are training these supervisors how to be just like them.
Okay, that's awesome.
I wonder what the problem is.
Recommendation number 5. We recommend the Vice President, Labor Relations, Michael Elston, as we found out. 1. Identify high or recurring grievance payment locations. 2. Require applicable local management in those locations to develop and implement an improvement action plan to reduce grievances. Boy, that's somebody who went to business school. An improvement action plan. And 3, monitor grievance progress in those locations. Dude, all of this stuff seems really reasonable and reasonably obvious. And the fact that management's not already doing these things is damning to management. And really shows how much they are the problem. All right, Postal Service response. So the OIG laid out these 5 recommendations. Now, here's how the post office responds. Management agreed with this finding and recommendations 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and in subsequent correspondence agreed with the monetary impact. Hey, that's something. Regarding recommendation 1, management stated they will provide refresher training for grievance handlers.
How can it be refresher when they were never taught?
Oh, ain't that the truth? Well, even the ones who were allegedly taught, they need to brush up as well. And dude, this is something, target implementation date is September 30th, 2026. So the end of this fiscal year. This is something that I've said for carriers for a long time too, is carriers also need refresher training, and management has no interest. They'd rather just discipline, or not even issue proper discipline. They'd rather just harass instead of offering additional training. All right, recommendation 2. Regarding recommendation 2, management stated they will share best practices with labor relation personnel during its continuing education series sessions. The target implementation date is March 31st, 2026. Regarding recommendation 3, so look, this one takes less time to implement. Management gets to get together to distribute best practices. How come the NALC ain't doing that? All right, regarding recommendation 3, management stated they will explore technological improvements in OT admin and will continue to encourage the use of OT admin tools to effectively manage overtime.
As long as it's put in place where they can't cheat the numbers.
Yeah, well, this is part of the problem because management and the union, well, hold on, the target implementation date is September 30th, 2027. So it's going to take until the end of the next fiscal year because they're going to have to come up with an upgraded program. But a part of the problem here is that management and the union disagree on what constitutes an opportunity because that's part of what's tracked. And a bigger part of the problem, in my opinion, is that the union and the union disagree on what constitutes an opportunity because it's not spelled out in the JCAM.
The union and management, we disagree on it.
Yeah. But dude, even among union stewards, there's not a clear consensus on what is an opportunity and how is it tracked and what does it mean?
Yeah, but the problem is that when they saying the opportunity to an overtime carrier saying, hey, we called him to see if he want to come and work.
Yeah,
and
is that an opportunity
he didn't answer the phone or
isn't?
whatever. Yeah.
Some people say it is. Some people say it isn't.
But then how do you know that they're not lying?
Well, and it goes further. Okay, if I give you auxiliary assistance to work, and it says, and I claim that it's 2 hours of auxiliary, it only takes you an hour. Is that 2 hours of opportunity? Like, this is stuff that can be hammered out in the JCAM, and it's not. And it's something that we know is a problem and is a source of tremendous disagreement between the union and management.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that management wants to give 2 hours and you do it in 1 hour.
Yeah.
They're still supposed to make up that hour somewhere else.
Right, because that's my argument too.
If
Because
it's another day or not.
Yeah, management will say like, oh, that person's a runner. We're giving them 90-minute handoffs and they're getting them done in an hour. That's not our fault. And my argument back, which I probably learned from you, was like, well, you're the supervisor, aren't you? You know that person does more work. Give them more work. That's your job as a supervisor. All right, moving
That's your job to figure that out.
Yeah. But again, this could be resolved in the JCAM, and it's not.
Right.
All right. Regarding recommendation 4, management stated that retail and delivery personnel will be required to take an online course titled OT Admin for National Association of Letter Carriers. Nice. Similarly, processing and distribution management will provide site-specific... who cares? That's for the mail handlers. All right. So, great. They're going to get trained on how to use OT Admin. Regarding recommendation 5, management stated labor relations...
So this is where OIG doesn't understand.
Okay.
Any tools that management's going to use without the approval or agreement with the NALC, that could be grieved and then they can't be used.
Right. Well,
because of mismanagement by you mismanaging the tool the wrong way by management.
Sure. And even in cases where OT admin is used, because it'll do crazy things with like opportunity hours, this is why you have to meet with management every week to go over these overtime numbers, because as the quarter goes on, there's going to be a bigger and bigger disparity.
Yeah. Now, the weekly meetings, that is a local LMOU and
I think
it's in hours to have a weekly meeting.
Yeah.
It is not like that everywhere. So
no, that's
every
true.
City is different on that, but ours is actually agreed upon.
It might be in the national agreement now.
It's not.
Okay. All right. That's fine. I haven't gotten to that part of the new JCAM yet. All right. So moving on. Regarding recommendation 5, management stated labor relations will continue to identify the highest 5 offices/facilities in each labor relations district that incur the greatest amount of grievance activity and or payouts, and management will proactively focus on addressing root cause problems and contract compliance in those locations. Target implementation date is September 30th, 2026. This is another recommendation that, like, how is management not already doing this? How do they see these huge grievance settlement numbers coming out of a place and they're like, whatever?
Well, they don't have the time because they're too busy harassing carriers, doing 1838s and 3999s and doing all those things. They don't have time to learn all these rules.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, well, but this is the job of like middle and upper management to make sure that noticing these targeted areas.
But they keep telling them to the supervisors to go and do the 1838s, 3999s.
You just hit it. They don't give a shit about these numbers. They're concerned about making the numbers. And oh my God, dude, you're so right. I think that's exactly what's happening. OIG evaluation. The OIG considers management's comments responsive to the recommendations, and corrective action should resolve the issues identified in the report. Sure, it should. Let's see if it does. All right, moving on to the next finding.
That'll be fun if they do another OIG report to see if they actually followed all those recommendations.
That would be, yeah. Well, it talks about that later on, that there will be like follow-up sessions, because there's one recommendation that OIG makes and management's like, nah, we don't need to do that.
I wonder what our Postmaster General does reading that report, because
he does. It's a great question. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a great question. All right, finding number 2, oversight and storage of local agreements. This is a problem in our union too. Field management entered into LMOUs or other binding local agreements that contain perpetual or escalating remedies and did not always align with current operational needs. For example, dude, these examples are so much fun. These are examples pulled out of LMOUs. The After 5 agreement in Texas 2 District allowed payments to carriers delivering mail after 5 p.m. in addition to overtime. The agreement has remained in effect for over 30 years without revision and has expanded in scope, continuing to cost the Postal Service increased grievance payments without resolving the original issue. These things that we're hearing about, these are victories for the union. These are things that as a union rep, you hang your hat on these things. All right, so going on. These payments totaled about $15 million, which made up half of the district's total amount paid during the scope period. As shown in Figure 9, these payments have trended upward since 2010, with spikes in 2015 to $3.2 million and 2016 to $5 million. After some fluctuations, the amount increased further in 2022 to $5.2 million, and again in 2024 to $5.3 million. So I want to go back to something that it says here. The payments have expanded in scope without resolving the original issue. So
that means management is not fixing the problem.
Yeah. The idea, and I think it gets into it in a second, but the idea is that we have this in place because, we'll talk about it because it goes into it here. District management indicated the After 5 agreement was originally conceived after a mail carrier was attacked while delivering the mail after dark. The monetary payment terms were initially to provide incentive to the then Houston district management to streamline operations so that mail carriers could complete their mail deliveries and return to their offices by 5 p.m. So the whole idea...
So that sounds like because of that settlement, they're going to make all the carriers to come to work earlier so they can be done early.
That's exactly
right,
Michael.
Goes down.
That's the point of this extra money.
Do you mean somebody in Houston who actually filed a grievance and got the LMOU changed because it benefited the carriers for safety of the carriers?
They got the LMOU changed, and there may have been grievances before that because you have to have leverage to get management to agree to something like that.
Somebody actually cared for the carriers.
Yeah, and but this point that the OIG makes, I think, is an important one, which is the purpose of this additional payment is supposed to be stop having carriers out after dark.
Right.
And that's not what's happening.
Right.
Instead, the purpose of the additional payment is just management's paying more money for the same thing. And that's also like what penalty overtime is. You know, it's called penalty overtime because it's a penalty management has to pay for not getting carriers off the clock. Instead, it just becomes an additional operating expense, which totally undermines the original purpose. And if that penalty is not enough to change management's behavior, then as we learned in episode 1, needs to be a bigger penalty. All right, so more recently, in fiscal years 2023 and 2024, changes to processing operations in the district, along with the opening of a new processing facility, resulted in mail flow changes district-wide where delivery facilities received mail from the plant later than before. So they opened new processing plants. We have less mail, and somehow we're getting the mail later than before. And that leads to follow-on problems, which they're about to tell us about. In response, district management created a later carrier start time of 9 a.m. at all post offices, stations, and branches in the district. Dude, in the whole fucking district.
Yeah. So 9 a.m., so if you work with lunch, that looks like it's done at 5:30, which already violates by 30 minutes every day to every single carrier.
You might as well work for the OIG because despite having never seen this part of the report before, this start time virtually guaranteed full-time carriers receive the after 5 payments based on an 8-hour workday. As of the end of fiscal year 2025, these payments reached $6.2 million, which was a 17% increase from the previous year. So
whose fault is this?
Oh, management 100%.
Exactly.
It's not like the carriers...
They knew that rule was in place because they've been paying it every
exactly
year.
Right. Yeah. And it's not like the carriers were agitating for later start times. Carriers always want to start earlier. And so this is a complete failing of management. And then on top of that, we're getting mail. They're implementing new systems, new facilities, and getting us less mail later.
Yeah, how does that work?
Yeah, great job.
No, yeah.
Great job. All right. Now we go on to the next hang your hat on it for the union. As far back as 2001, the then Corvallis, Oregon postmaster agreed to provide non-monetary remedies for each instance management did not provide the local NASC branch with a properly executed PS Form 1723 assignment order for an employee on higher level detail. Can you explain briefly what a 1723 is?
That is when a carrier wants to take a higher assignment.
Like a 204B.
Like a 204B.
Right.
That has to be filled out.
Yeah, and then it's given to the union so that we know who's on who's a 204B,
detail. Because
who's on
as
a
you
detail.
know, in our constitution and probably bylaws, there are any managers who become that, they cannot be
union officers, representatives, stewards, anything
go to
like
conventions
that.
or anything like
right,
that
delegates.
for the 2 years that they after they stop
But then
being
on top
managed.
of that, we have to know when that period ends, and they're going to come back to craft work because management does shenanigans with that. So there's good reasons why we need that 1723.
Yep.
All right. So every time the management...
Oh, by the way, the 1723 also has an expiration date when
That's
they're
exactly
done
right. Yeah.
being a 204B
And so-
or other higher details.
This is something very achievable. Mm-hmm. Management all around the country manages to get this done, and it's not a very high bar.
By the way, the 1723 is one
Yep.
sheet of paper.
Yeah.
All they have to do is hit print.
Yeah, dude. And this shows you how incompetent management is.
Mm-hmm.
So in Corvallis, here's the solution they came up with. The remedies included providing an agreed upon amount of food items, such as donuts, bagels, and assortment of meats and cheeses for the entire post office staff on a given day.
That's an easy remedy.
It is. That's a
Nice.
cool one. I like that they got creative. You know, management's like, oh, we're not going to pay you money. And you're like, dude, you're harming us by not letting us know who's a carrier and who's not.
But this was progressive discipline.
Well, we're getting to
Grievance,
that.
right?
Yeah.
There you go.
So, when management and the NALC representatives agreed on these terms in 2001, the quantity and variety of food items began with a set amount, which increased over time. Michael, why do you think it increased over time?
They keep violating that rule.
That's exactly right. It clearly was not enough of a disincentive back in 2001, so we had to keep escalating. By fiscal year 2023, the quantity and variety of food items to be provided from a single violation had further expanded. See table 5. So we're actually going to talk about this table because it's fucking great. All right. In 2006, management, if they failed to provide this simple piece of paper, they had to provide 4 dozen assorted fresh bagels. In 2023, 17 years later, they had to provide 7 dozen assorted bagels and donuts. Oh, so it started out with bagels, then it switched to bagels and donuts. Now, if management doesn't want to give 7 dozen donuts and bagels, what do they have to do? Fill out the 1723 and give it to the union. This
Simple.
is not a big ask.
1 page.
Yeah. In 2006.
Oh, by the way,
Yep.
just real quick.
Yep.
Because the 204Bs are still carriers.
Yep.
They're still carriers.
Yeah.
If management does not fill out the 1723, they
Yeah.
don't get higher pay. Okay, so it's a cheating way for upper
I
management.
thought that was the Form 50.
No,
Or the Form 50 is the result
because
of
this is a higher
Right.
detail. Okay,
That's funny.
So higher upper management, what they were doing
Right.
was not filling out the 1723, so
they
they don't
didn't
have to pay them higher wage. Okay,
That's plausible.
And so any 204Bs, because you are still our union
Yeah.
paying members,
Right.
that if you're not getting the 1723,
Yeah.
it's because they don't want to pay you that extra amount
and
of
the
money.
union should file a grievance on that because you're still a carrier.
Yep.
And we represent carriers and get them paid what they're owed.
It's just
same
like-
with you did for out of schedule pay
Exactly.
for 204Bs.
And regular carriers,
Yep.
they can bid on a higher swing.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Right.
Right?
Yeah. You
And
can bid on a T6
Yeah,
or you can
and
be
that's
assigned to a T6 assignment.
Yeah, you can bid on that
Well,
when it's available.
The process is in the JCAM. It's not worth getting into.
Like,
The
but
moral of the
again,
story is, they should be
they
getting higher
can,
level
and then when
pay.
they do that and
Right.
get it, they have to fill out a 1723, so that
that's
the
so interesting.
carrier can
to
get
make
paid
sure you get that pay.
the higher pay.
Dude, that's great. Okay.
Some things that some of you guys don't know about.
All right. So in 2006, it went from 6. Hold on. This is the kind of thing that Michael talks about. And I'm not super intimately familiar with it. As far as I know, Michael's talking out of his ass, which is why my wife says at the beginning of the episode, don't count on our opinions for anything.
Find out on your
find out for yourself. Look it up.
Look it up.
In article, it's not in Article 41. That's about opting. What's the one for higher level assignments? Like Article 21 or 23 or something like that.
Higher level
25.
assignments?
Yeah. 25 maybe. I don't know. It's somewhere else in there. Like how you get higher level assignments. All right,
I
moving
think it's in
on.
Article 8 too. I think.
Regardless.
But, yeah.
We're never going to get through this.
Yeah,
All
I know, right?
Because I'm so fascinated by
Right.
this remedy.
Yeah.
Moving on with the remedy, in 2006, it was 16 ounces of cream cheese. In 2023, it was 48 ounces of cream cheese.
1 pound of cream cheese to 4
to
pounds
3
of cream
pounds
cheese.
of cream cheese. Yeah. Yeah. In 2006, it was assortment of no less than 3 8-ounce jars of jams or jellies, and it gets bumped to no less than 6 8-ounce jars of jams or jellies.
That's a lot of jam and jelly.
Yeah. If management doesn't want to provide all that jam or jelly, what should they do?
They need to print out the 1723. It's
Oh,
only
that's
one
right.
page.
Yeah. All right. In 2006, an assortment of sliced meats equal to no less than 3 pounds. In 2023, no less than 8 pounds.
Well, this reminds me of something.
Okay.
With the election.
Uh-huh.
So 204Bs, because they're part of management, they're not allowed to vote. Okay? And our election committee said that, because they didn't get because the hall did not get a 1723,
right.
So therefore they can vote,
right.
which violates our constitution.
There are reasons that we need a 1723. Yep, exactly. All right. And then the last one.
But again, I would go further than that, but
yeah. In 2006, there was no cheese requirement. In 2023, 4 pounds of Swiss and cheddar cheese.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's all just comply with the fucking contract.
Wait, I'm lactose intolerant, so
Dude.
if I eat those cheeses and I go to the bathroom a lot, I might go over on my time.
If you,
just kidding.
but the mentality of it, of if you don't like cheese, all you have to do is not eat it.
I know.
If you don't like buying cheese for carriers, all you have to do is abide by the fucking contract.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now we go on to the next one. Still fun. An LMOU that has been in effect for several years between management and unions in California 1 and California 2 districts allowed carriers to receive grievance payments if they delivered mail to a zip code outside of their assigned route.
Okay.
So I've heard of places like this. And like here in Vegas, as long as you're in the same station, you can work overtime. If you're on the ODL, you work wherever.
Right.
And in places like branch 458, or where Fred Woodley's branch in Ohio, you can even work at neighboring stations.
Now, we've asked the hall many times because of Sunday Amazon delivery.
Right.
And my station is the hub for the Amazon delivery.
Okay.
And so we would have multiple stations come to our station.
Yeah, sure.
And lots of times our CCAs will show up for the Amazon delivery, and multiple other stations don't show up. So we end up delivering to other stations' zip code.
Right.
Is that a grievance?
It's not. In Article 7, which I just finished reading on Classes of Mail, no, like all bets are off on Sundays.
Because it's the same as installation.
But with this agreement, it might be. And so this agreement goes the other direction. Like, not only do you not work outside your station, you don't even work outside your own zip code. Okay, so this is the agreement. It goes on. These situations would most likely occur when a carrier was unavailable and another carrier whose regular route covered a different zip code assumed the route. So yeah, sure. Hey, we need you to come in and deliver on, the other side. Since the replacement carrier may incur overtime to deliver both routes, overtime grievances involving the overtime desired list could also apply. District management indicated this LMOU presented minimal operational concerns when first agreed to due to higher mail volume. However, with recent declining mail volumes and some zip codes generating limited mail, this agreement may not reflect current operational needs. All right, so this is on management to go back and renegotiate and try to figure something out. And they know the score.
Yeah. Didn't we just go through an LMOU?
We did, and there were no changes in our LMOU.
I'm saying in California, that was their chance.
Right, exactly. That was their chance. Well,
the
OIG is going to get into that.
Okay.
All right. Again, credit to the OIG.
They know those rules, but not the supervisors.
I know, right? Isn't that funny?
Yeah, supervisors, yeah.
Additionally, district management did not always maintain so that's the end of the hang your hat on these. Additionally, district management did not always maintain or update a centralized repository that contained local agreements. In the reviewed districts, management could not always provide or locate copies of LMOUs or agreements we requested. They don't even have the damn agreement.
And you know what's so funny about that?
Tell me.
All they had to do was call the hall. I was like, can I get a copy of that?
Exactly.
And then they can provide it to the OIG.
Dude, so we just did our vacation bidding at my station. And we have a process in the LMOU, how it's supposed to be done.
Yep.
And our station manager comes in. She's from California. She just got here. This is her first vacation bidding. And she was like, we're going to do it the way we do it in California.
Nope.
No, that's not what it says in our local.
Yep.
And we had to make a stink and finally here's the local agreement. This is what it says. You don't have the authority to break this. Dude. All right. But apparently in these places, management doesn't even have the local agreement. So specifically...
Well, it's because you know where the LMO is. You can provide it.
It's at my case.
Yeah.
It's purple. There it is right there. Okay. Specifically, 2 district labor relations offices did not have copies of the requested agreements on hand, nor did they have a repository of LMOUs on their intranet website. So they didn't even have a digital copy of it. Another labor relations office had an agreement repository on their local shared drive, accessible by users in that district only. This indicated there was no standard approach or consistent implementation across districts. This is also a problem within our own union. And now there is a growing LMOU depository, and you know who had to do that? Firm aid arbitration. And that is a goddamn embarrassment to our national union that they don't have it, that it has to come from Corey. Mm-hmm. All right. Maybe we should vote him in. LMOUs include specific work rules and conditions allowed by the national agreement and are subject to contractual processes, while separate local agreements outside these work rules and conditions have the potential to be informal or entered into by local facility management, usually the postmaster or plant manager level, and without higher level or district review. Additionally, agreements can impose unlimited financial responsibility on one party, creating significant financial risk. Well, it's limited by how much you break the contract. Anyway, instead of accepting broad, open-ended liability, management has an obligation to negotiate clear and reasonable limits. I agree with that. Pay remedies should be reasonably related to any harm actually suffered by the grievant, and punitive damages should be avoided to protect the organization's financial integrity and to ensure settlements remain equitable. All they'd have to do is don't break the contract so much. Furthermore, agreements must also keep pace with operational changes. For example, as organizations expand, restructure, or pivot to new markets, provisions drafted years ago may no longer reflect the current environment. Conducting regular agreement reviews allows management to identify problematic causes, including liability limitations. We have that built into the contract, and they're going to talk about it. Regarding repositories, scattered contract storage makes agreements difficult to trace, find, and prioritize, which may lead to excess time spent on finding contracts that could lead to increased contract administration time and higher contract costs. So to me, that's really negligible. Like the amount of time that you spent just trying to find the LMOU. Now, granted, all of that time is wasted time, but it's still not that much in the bigger picture of what we're talking about. But it's ludicrous that this is the position management find themselves in. We have reported challenges in this area before, and in response to a prior OIG audit, Headquarters Labor Relations Management agreed to issue communication to Postal Service area managers of labor relations to have districts establish centralized repositories for LMOUs. Did it happen? Apparently not.
So quickly, when stewards file grievance, we bring the contract rules or LMOU.
Yeah.
So first time when management violates it, we bring that rule. But as you can see from what the OIG report says, they keep violating it over and over. They do. So that means we provided them information first, but they just refuse to learn what's in the LMOU.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And, interestingly, the JCAM says, like in its introduction, that you should have a JCAM on hand whenever you meet with management.
By both sides.
Mm-hmm. Or it should be available to both sides, whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't think it says in there that you should also have an LMOU. Mm-hmm. Might be worth adding that. Mm-hmm. In fact, dude, maybe that's a resolution that
they could be added.
I could actually get our branch to get behind. To add that
being said on any informal A meetings,
right?
Or formal
to just add that language in there,
saying they have to have the JCAM and the other handbooks
Look at
available.
There's some low hanging fruit. All right.
Because other handbooks, like I said, like the EL 921 to M41 to M39 and everything. Because management know where all the handbooks and manuals
we learned before they don't get trained up on any of that stuff.
Because they don't have any idea where those handbooks are at.
And dude, this is such an example
or any access to it.
Yeah. This is such an example of the dysfunction as well, because OIG just said, like, hey, in a previous report, we told you guys to have this centralized repository. Well, that was in 2020. And there was probably a goal in that one that says, like, by end of fiscal year. Apparently it never happened. Mm-hmm. Go figure. All right. Headquarters and District Labor Relations Management noted that agreement negotiations are dynamic and influenced by local operational needs, historic context, and originally agreed upon terms. Once provisions are included in an agreement, removing them is difficult without the acceptance of both parties. That's true. Regarding all three agreement examples provided, management indicated that without this acceptance, agreements can remain in place for long periods of time, if not indefinitely, even when outdated. Additionally, we found each of these local agreements were signed by postmasters or officers in charge. However, we could not identify, I love this part, we could not identify any specific or consistent policy on which management positions have the authority to enter into local agreements. So we know who does it on the union side. It's the local branch president. Who does it on the management side? Apparently, management has no fucking idea.
Right?
There is no... Dude, that's so wild to
I know
me.
in our branch, it's usually the postmaster.
I would assume so.
But dude, it might be... And labor relations or whoever else he wants to bring.
Right. I mean, it's a team because we know just from our own negotiations that they all sit in a room together. And
our team.
Yeah,
their team and our team. Branch. Yeah.
Right. All right. So anyway, we could not identify any specific or consistent policy on which management... Okay, I already said that. We also received conflicting information from labor relations personnel in the districts reviewed on who had authority to enter into local agreements. For example, some stated the authority rested with postmasters or plant managers, while others stated it rested with the district labor relations manager. Yeah. There's your problem. Yep. Furthermore, even though headquarters labor relations issued guidance to have district establish centralized repositories for agreements, there was no standard approach to this implementation, and districts applied inconsistent practices. By reversing or modifying, because reversing or modifying agreements is extremely difficult, management must thoroughly understand the commitments they make in each settlement. Yeah, this is management screwing themselves. Before agreeing to any terms, they should consult relevant provisions of handbooks and manuals. Yeah, they should. Establishing financial and time boundaries helps maintain fairness, balance, and fiscal responsibility while minimizing unnecessary risks. And now we get on to the next recommendations. How can we fix this? Recommendation number 6. We recommend the Vice President, Labor Relations, develop guidance to 1. Identify which management positions have the authority to enter into local agreements. Yeah, that seems prudent. 2, include risk management practices such as expiration dates, legal review, or mandatory periodic review clauses for management responsible for negotiating future local agreements. And 3, create a digital repository for local agreements.
It's almost like MRS or
very much like
or
that.
grievance settlements. Maybe they should, just like we always say, maybe our union needs to put that up so we can find those grievance settlements.
That's exactly right. Yep. And in the information age, should be achievable. Recommendation number 7. We recommend the Vice President, Labor Relations, develop and maintain a national repository for local memorandums of understanding for standardized ease of access by and for all levels of local management. God, that seems achievable. Postal Service response. Management disagreed with finding 2 and recommendation 6, but agreed with recommendation 7. Regarding the finding, management stated that a mandate to catalog every local agreement, MOU, and grievance settlement would produce no meaningful institutional benefit, as the vast majority are routine administrative instruments with no policy consequence whatsoever. Oh my God. Now, the OIG will respond to that. But holy crap, how do they even make such a statement? That, the MOUs don't really mean anything. They don't cause us any trouble. And we don't need to keep track of them. Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God.
The reason they're saying that, because it's not coming out of their pocket. So they're basically saying, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Regarding recommendation 6, management stated some of the actions proposed in the recommendation are constrained by national contractual provisions within the national agreements. That's true. Some of the stuff is kind of pie in the sky, that you're going to have to get the union to agree on this stuff, and that's much easier said than done, especially when we already have favorable agreements. Regarding recommendation 7, management stated that during fiscal year 2026, headquarters labor relations will, in conjunction with district labor relations, accumulate all LMOUs. Headquarter labor relations will then explore technological solutions that can effectively and efficiently store the quantity of documents that will be received. Dude, you could fit all of them on a freaking thumb drive. Like, give me a break.
Look.
Target implementation is the end of the fiscal year.
Our union is doing the same shit. Okay?
Yeah.
Because if you want any grievance settlements and arbitration,
yeah,
you can't get it.
No, it's all gate capped.
Yeah. Why isn't it put on like the MRS?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So why can't we get that information for anybody?
Right.
Okay, especially for stewards.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, it doesn't make any sense to me. That's to me is you're keeping information that we can't use. I mean,
right, and you can see
same
the
thing
way
with management. They're keeping it in the dark, so they don't know any of the rules.
Right, and you can see in this report how that's harming management. And of course, we talk about all the time on Classes of Mail how it harms carriers or stewards not to have access.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
OIG evaluation. Regarding management's disagreement with finding 2, the OIG takes issue with management's assertion that the majority of local agreements are routine administrative instruments with no policy consequence. As we reviewed 3 local agreements with substantial impact, one of which resulted in millions of dollars in perpetual payments annually. These examples demonstrate that agreements can evolve into increasingly burdensome obligations that can have substantial, lasting financial and operational consequences. Regarding recommendation 6, management was not specific in their response about which actions are constrained by contractual provisions. The OIG maintains that identifying which management positions have the authority to enter into a local agreement is a necessary internal management practice. Yeah, no shit. Once identified, those managers could be taught risk management practices for negotiating future local agreements to better equip them for negotiations. Now, this again is why the union has the upper hand. You know, we complain about some of the stuff that they're doing, but the union also has like LMOU training. You know, hey, you're going to be negotiating it. Here's your training. Further, management agreed that a repository of LMOUs would be helpful, but objected to a mandate to catalog every local agreement, MOU, and grievance settlement. Do you remember in the recommendation that it said you needed to catalog every memorandum and grievance settlement? Do you remember them saying that?
Nope.
No. And this is the problem. Mm-hmm. And they go on to say, which was not part of our recommendations. Management's like, oh, we can't possibly catalog all this stuff. Like, dude, we didn't ask you to do that.
Mm-hmm. Just figure out a way that everybody has access to it.
Yeah. Well, and it was only talking about LMOUs. Mm-hmm. And, dude, we will pursue this disagreement through the audit resolution process. So, yeah, there's follow-up from the OIG on this stuff. Mm-hmm. Regarding recommendation 7, we consider management's comments responsive and corrective action should resolve the issues.
So my question is, they're recommending all this, and this. What if management doesn't want to follow any recommendation? What does that do for management?
That's the problem. What's the enforcement mechanism for any of this stuff? Yeah. It's just recommendations and they can take them or leave them probably. Mm-hmm.
But I think on that, if they keep breaking what OIG says, they probably have to answer to like maybe Congress.
You'd like to think.
Because, you know, they keep saying we're losing $6 billion a year.
Right.
And yet you're spending all this money on these grievance settlements.
Yeah, here's a third of $1 billion each year.
You keep breaking the rules. It's easy. Follow the rules.
Right. Yeah, that's right. All right, so let's move on to finding number 3. We are nearing the end. Grievance decision letters. Oh my God, I remember what this is. Oh, you're going to love it. Opportunities exist to strengthen management. To strengthen management over grievances by completing all required elements of decision letters in GATS. So for a little background, and they may give the background in here, but when management has a GATS settlement, they have to provide all this surrounding information about like why they agreed to pay the union this money. All right, so going on. We found local management did not consistently include sufficient support in GATS for grievance payments during the informal grievance process. The informal grievance process allows an employee's immediate supervisor to settle grievances at the lowest level and requires supervisors to support payments using justifications on decision letters. Specifically, of 208 randomly selected grievance payments reviewed, 96% did not have complete information reported in the justification or rationale statements on the GATS decision letters. Dude.
Okay. So this is what happened in Las Vegas. I don't know what happened in other cities.
Yeah.
Supervisors have decided they don't want to pay the GATS pay anymore. So now they get somebody else, like labor relations or station managers, to have access to paying GATS.
Wow.
And the problem with that is that it doesn't get paid on time.
Yeah.
So in reality, we should be filing a grievance for non-compliance.
Of course we should. Dude, look at how big the payments got in Chicago for not paying grievances on time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of the 199 payments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
So I did a grievance. So obviously over a year ago now.
Right.
Okay. Where a grievance was settled, where management had to pay for mandating grievance. It was a mandating grievance. Okay. Our hall found that they still hadn't paid it like 10 months later. Okay.
Wow.
So they filed a grievance for non-compliance.
Right.
But only gave the carriers like $20, $30 per person.
Oh, okay. As an escalated remedy for
Them not, that doesn't seem like anything for waiting that long, you know.
All right.
And this is where they should put on the, we're like, if you do this again, charge more money.
Right. Of the 199 payments, required elements of the justification were missing, such as the payee's name. So they're not even putting in there who they're paying, contract violation dates and descriptions, the lump sum payment amounts, and the number of hours adjusted. The justification or decision letter must include a detailed statement of the issue or dispute and the resulting decision that should include the payee's name, why the grievance is being paid, when the issue occurred, and the amount and type of payment.
So it's the GATS pay is called a grievance arbitration tracking system.
Yeah.
Okay. When they actually fill that out, it's fill in the blank. Okay?
Right. Yeah,
so
exactly.
So the problem is that the program is set where you can just leave it blank and still get the carriers paid.
Dude, once again, you might as well be the OIG because they're about to mention that. Additionally, reviews of payment amounts, especially for decision letters, are important since amounts can vary greatly for each grievance. Now, mind you, also, this is how management, like how we reference old grievances to see what the score is. That's what they do with GATS. And if there's not information in there, then they're useless. Okay. GATS users can establish these reviews within contractual and statutory obligations through automatic email alerts at the local level, which can be set up in GATS to inform management when certain payment activity has taken place. 5 of the 8 districts reviewed use these alerts to prompt review of justifications. Furthermore, maintenance of grievance files should include appropriate grievance forms, documentation to support the Postal Service's position, even when it's bullshit, and any documents the union provides to support its positions. However, these files are commonly maintained as physical files at the local level and can grow large over time and be more susceptible to being misplaced or overlooked, unlike decision letters stored in GATS, where information can be summarized and can be consistently accessible by management. So we're talking about just dragging the post office into the information age. It's crazy that that's not already happening. These things occurred in part because, as Michael says, there is no minimum character limit in the decision letter box supervisors use to enter in their justifications, which means it can be left blank. Yeah. Damn, Michael. You are on the money, dude. Some supervisors leave the decision letters blank when a grievance is not met at formal A and is appealed to the union by the union to the next level, while others document the appeal in their decision letter to keep a formal audit trail. Now, dude, this also probably speaks to the fact...
Well, see, the supervisors, they don't want to get yelled at. So they just keep it blank so they don't... So no information, you can't get yelled at.
I mean, it's saying here that even at formal A, they're leaving it blank if it's being moved up. And this speaks to the fact that management isn't even making contentions. And it's just being sent up without them, which the OIG doesn't get into, but 8 arbitration sure as hell gets into it. And then that's a whole other thing. Consequently, we found no control within GATS to prevent supervisors from simply bypassing the decision letter and leaving it blank to move to the next step in the process. Additionally, management they're not saying why they did what they did. And in my experience, a lot of the time it's because they don't have a fucking reason. Or any reason would be laughable, and so they just leave it blank.
Well, because they don't want to get yelled at by the upper management.
Because the real reason is because the POOM told me not to settle these kind of grievances. That's the real reason, but they can't write that in GATS. All right. Additionally, management indicated these issues occurred because some supervisors did not have the necessary skills to identify and manage grievances. Ding, 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 ding. Specifically, many supervisors with the responsibility of managing grievances were not experienced in the grievance process, had only taken basic training, or other duties took priority, and they had rushed through the process. Yeah, again, a lack of training. Yeah, how about that?
But let's hire more supervisors instead.
That'll do it. In some districts, supervisors were instructed to consult with their managers before making any payments to ensure the payments were accurate and justification was properly documented. Also, management stated supervisors did not always seek advice, even when presented with opportunities such as teleconferences or training sessions. Informal grievances comprise $336 million of the total $866 million in total grievance amounts paid during the scope period, representing a significant amount of financial cost to the Postal Service. Without required GATS decision letters for these informal grievances, management cannot always verify whether grievance payments settled locally are accurate and complete, which increases the risk of improper or erroneous payments. We identified about $201 million in costs due to grievance payments processed with incomplete decision letters from fiscal years 2023 to 2024. If not mitigated, this may increase the risk of future improper payments. So I bet you that happens. In fact, I know it's happened in my own grievances where I make the argument, I fill everything out, and management's like, all right, give me a list of all the carriers and how much I owe all of them. They don't check that. They don't check my work. They just enter it all into GATS and move on.
Well, technically, when you're sitting down on the grievance settlement,
when it should be checked.
You go over the numbers.
Yeah, it should be.
So once that's done,
yeah,
they have to pay that amount, no matter if it's right or wrong.
Right, and that's it, right? And that's kind of the problem here. All right,
it's not the problem.
Well,
the grievance
it's management's problem. Yeah.
It's not our problem.
Right.
We're the one who brought those numbers.
Dude, the only thing that OIG is saying that the union is doing wrong is continuing to escalate remedies. But that's been covered at this point.
That's because they keep breaking the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, recommendation number 8. We recommend the Vice President, Labor Relations, 1, develop automated controls in the grievance and arbitration tracking system to add system-required fields for justification statements on decision letters.
Oh, no more fill in the blank anymore.
Right, no more leaving it blank.
Yeah.
But whatever the minimum is, they'll just type ASDF all the way through. I mean, they'll still...
Well, if they do that, here's the thing is...
Then that's willful noncompliance.
Yeah, and they have to put in their EIN, right?
Probably.
So they'll know which supervisor is doing this on purpose.
Right, yeah, that's fair. It's more than just an oversight at that point. It's willful noncompliance.
Find a way to blame the supervisor who's doing it wrong.
And 2, provide refresher training for supervisors on requirements for proper completion of decision letters. Now here's the Postal Service's response. Management disagreed with finding 3 and the monetary impact, stating the grievance file should contain any necessary supporting documentation for the decision or settlement made. The grievance file... regarding recommendation 8, management agreed, stating they will make justification a required entry field for informal lump sum payments. Additionally, management agreed to provide training to supervisors. The target implementation date is September 30th, 2026. OIG evaluation. Regarding finding 3, our audit was based on Postal Service requirements that establish GATS as a repository for documentation to support grievance-related settlement payments. We maintain decision letters stored in GATS should be able to be consistently accessed by management or authorized users, regardless of location, enabling increased oversight and monitoring, as physical files can grow large over time and are susceptible to being misplaced and overlooked. It's so true, dude. Like the whole idea that we're still just sitting on these big stacks of paperwork, it's kind of crazy in the futuristic year 2026.
So technically, management has to keep the files for, I think, 2 years. Okay. And then on the GATS, on the notes, they could just put in grievance numbers in. And then all they have to do is look up that grievance number.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Just we'll do it that way. You don't have to put in all the information of what happened on the grievance. No, just put the grievance number in.
Or come up,
and you can look at the settlement.
The post office is the world leader in optical character recognition. Scan them in. They become readable PDFs. And this stuff is so achievable. All right. Regarding management's disagreement with the monetary impact, the OIG maintains the $201 million in monetary impact represents the financial exposure resulting from inadequate controls and documentation practices, including management's own assertion of inadequate supervisory practices.
Oh.
So
basically OIG says they're a bunch of idiots, and that's why we're spending this money.
I love this about the OIG's report is they don't just say like, oh, this is what the post office said.
They're stupid.
Yeah. They say, this is what the post office said, and here's why they're stupid. Yeah. It's good stuff. All right. Regarding recommendation 8, we consider management's comments responsive, and their corrective action should resolve the issues. And here we go. Final paragraph. Looking forward. Hey, we are going to get done in under an hour.
Right, there you go.
If I get to it.
Well, it is part 2, though. So.
Yeah, true. Looking forward. The Postal Service faces ongoing challenges of managing inconsistent grievance handling, insufficient oversight of overtime, and improper work assignments, and outdated or open-ended local agreements. These conditions have contributed to persistent grievance payments, arbitration awards, and operational inefficiencies. They don't mention management's outright refusal to abide by the contract. Mm-hmm. Going forward, it is crucial the Postal Service strengthen labor relations and reduce financial exposure by enhancing supervisor training, completing proper documentation, fine, and improving its management of grievance activity and overtime. Yeah. That's what
Is that it?
No. Okay. Additionally, the Postal Service should consider reviewing all local agreements and pursuing collaborative efforts with the unions to update outdated provisions to
collaborating.
Allow, yeah. I mean, because it has to be collaborative anyway, because that's the way the contract's laid out. To allow it to better align contractual obligations with current operational needs and promote long-term financial stability. The end.
So the reason I said the word collaborating is that they spent $1 billion to not collaborate.
Right. Oh, I get you. Yeah. If they would collaborate with us, I mean, they collaborated with us on the contract and then they just ignore it.
Yeah. That's why they're paid that $1 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sit
So, this is something that I remember what Corey Walton said on his podcast. Okay. When he said, when he goes to sit down on contract negotiations, and the first thing out of management's mouth is, we're broke. We can't help you.
Right,
we can't give you this raise. Well, this is when they need to bring up like an OIG report and things like that and say, look, you're wasting money on this. It's simple. All you have to do is pay to follow the contract,
do
follow
what you
the
agreed
rules,
to do.
Then you don't have to spend $1 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just saved you $300 million a year.
We just saved you that money for $300 a year. $300 million a year. Okay.
Right.
And I mean, and that's just part of it. I mean, how about other things? Too many managers. Okay?
Right.
Well, we got to hire more managers. Well, okay, maybe that's where it's costing the post a lot of money. Okay. I mean, if each manager makes $100,000 a year, 10 managers is $1 million. Okay. Maybe because you have maybe 1,000 more managers than necessary. Oh, that just numbers just went up by like 100%, 1,000%.
Yeah.
It's easy to fix. There's how many managers we got in the Postal Service that just don't do shit. Okay. And this is the one I was telling you as we were reading, I think the part 1,
right,
where the managers, where they are removed from managing any carriers as they have, or any employees,
right,
but the Post Office won't fire them.
Right.
So what do?
Just move them around.
Move them around.
Put them into,
or sit in the office twiddling their thumbs and that's doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
Or they start training managers how to be like them.
Right.
Is that a complete waste of money? Sounds like to me that's a complete waste of money.
Yeah, man. To me, you kick those people back down to craft, or fire them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because here's the thing. If the management doesn't like to fire their own managers, fine.
Yeah.
Kick them down to carrying mail or do clerk work.
Right. Yep.
We gave you the opportunity to be a manager. Now you can't be a manager, so now you can go carry mail or be a clerk.
So I don't know if you have a number one item from this OIG report, but to me, the number one item, the most mind-blowing item in there is management blaming short staffing of supervisors.
Yeah.
Oh my God. If we only had more supervisors, dude.
But because of the stupid supervisors costing the post us $1 billion in 3 years.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the resolve, right?
All right, dude. I'm committed to getting out of here in under an hour. Yeah. We're in 58-minute territory. So
I don't have anything else to say
get the music ready.
Yeah.
And guys, what a journey. This has been enlightening, very interesting. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will catch you all next time. Dude, we got out of here with a minute to spare.